once you've done a pinch of salt, you can always add more salt to this recipe, right? But once you dump the whole thing in, like Emilia will do, you can't really take that away. You have to start from scratch. And this is the concept here. You can always add more and you can always gain more. But here's the thing. Once you've added so much, how much more difficult is it going to be for you to take that away?
You can always add more later, but you can't always take away the impact of adding too much now. Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
And it's Emilia.
Welcome to another episode of Evolve Ventures, where we're helping growth-minded humans evolve by breaking one limiting belief at a time. We hope you enjoyed the last episode, number 272, The Truth About Therapy. For today, number 273, Motivation Monday, what can you remove to add? We have seen too many times with clients in our own lives, with just people all over the place, that we've started to develop this belief that in order to make changes in our life, in order to become a new person, a better person, whatever, we have to add all of these things. We have to do more, add more, achieve more, blah, 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 blah. It's this idea of add, do, more, new. What we're going to be talking about today is what is the actual truth about being able to become the best version of yourself. Yes, adding things is an important component of that, but this other component is something that a lot of people don't talk about, which is removing all of the unnecessary things in your life that are probably actually hurting your ability to grow. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. What do you need to remove in order to get the benefits of everything that you're doing?
Facts. So I was on a coaching call with one of my clients, and just thinking about those conversations just like make me so happy because of the progress that's been had in there. And this client was talking to me, also was a group coaching member. And he was talking to me about how he was really, for the time that he was in group coaching, kind of like in survival mode. And we kind of got talking about that and inquiring, like, why was that? Like, what happened? And he had said to me, I feel like I couldn't really absorb as much of the amazing content that you and Bianca had really curated for us because of the fact that I was just in such a survival mode. And as we started to peel back the layer as to why was there so much survival mode? And why was it that there wasn't as much absorption of some of the content that really he wanted to get into? We started kind of pulling back the curtain, and this is what this whole topic, this conversation is about, of how there was so much adding to his life and so much add, new, more. And there wasn't a big focal point on what can I take away before I add, or as I add things onto my plate, right? And so it got me really thinking about, for this episode, how important it is for all of us to have at least a system of thought to check ourselves with as it comes to the more, the new, the add, because I think that, let's just call it spade a spade, that's going to be very much a present in our lives, right? We're going to naturally have an inclination to want more, to want new, to want to add things to our life. And I think that life is all about the expansion and contractions and finding ourselves within that. So I think that it's fair to say that will always be there. And as a result of that acceptance level, just like I did with this client, what can we also do from a systematic standpoint to honor the fact that we do need to remove, we do need to subtract, and we do need to be mindful of what energy is staying stagnant, and how can we remove that out of our lives? So a great example of this, and this kind of resulted in, for our next group coaching, one of the activities that we'll end up doing, which is actually like having every single member, okay, cool, now you've added group coaching onto your plate. What are some things that need to be removed? Or what are some things that we can remove and start to phase out as you start to phase in this incredibly impactful content? Some basic things for all of our listeners that you can do. And we want you thinking about this question: what can you remove in order for you to add the things that are more aligned, more fulfilling for you, more meaningful in your life? For this client, it was okay, let's remove even some clutter in their home. Let's remove the ties of needing to be this old version of myself with X, Y, and Z relationship. Let's remove the expectations that we have on ourselves to just be okay 24/7, because that's an unrealistic thing to do, anyways. And the more and more we found that we're removing and taking away these things systematically, the places, the things, the ideas, the actual tangibles in our life, that is the more and more empowering, creates more space for us to actually add or just stay and expand into what's already in existence, what's already there for us, that is adding already so much to our life.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the first one to admit this. Like I'm a people pleaser. I am an overachiever, and adding those two things together is a dangerous mix. And I'm very much someone who, in the past, and only recently, I started implementing this. So I'm someone who, in the past, just kept adding more and more and more to my plate because of that people pleaser. Well, I don't want to let anybody down. I don't want anyone to be mad at me. I don't want anyone to think negatively of me. So let me just do more and do more and do more. And my mental health doesn't matter.
Yeah.
My well being doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how I feel because at least I'm not, doing anything that's going to bother anybody else. And I had a little mini mental breakdown. Um, and it was pretty bad. I mean, I was struggling to get up in the morning. I was struggling to do my work effectively. And I'm still kind of dealing with the repercussions of doing that for 3 years, 4 years of just never allowing myself to acknowledge and then advocate for my needs. So, what I
Hmm.
did recently was I had to have a really vulnerable dialogue, number one, with myself, and then number two, with Emilia and with some of the other people in my life, saying, listen, I'm not performing the best that I can. I'm not doing the best that I can. I'm not really doing okay. I need to remove some stuff. And what that looked like was me removing the articles that I was doing every other week. It looked like me making sure that I removed any calls after 7 p.m. It looked like me removing any additional things from my life and from my plate that weren't helping me. So, like on my daily tracker, I removed a couple of the habits that I was doing every single day because it just became too much for me.
Yeah.
So, in doing that over the last month, I've already noticed a significant difference in my capacity to handle things. And I'm showing up better for the things that I am doing, what's really important, which is my clients and giving them really what they need. And then the things that I am doing for Evolve, I'm doing them better because I removed some of the unnecessary things that could have been delegated,
Hmm.
and I removed some of the things that honestly just weren't a super priority, and re-put that energy into self-care and into doing better the things that I already had on my plate. And that freed up a lot of mental space and a lot of emotional burdensomeness that I was really feeling.
Mm. Yeah. And one of the things that I want to share in this conversation with our listeners, and also just like, I think it's important for us to go back to this principle of the fact that we have a relationship with the removal and with the deleting or with delegating, right? That's not necessarily, not a lot of us have a really positive relationship with that, right? With deleting, with removing, with delegating things from our lives. And the relationship that we often have is that we experience loss when that does take place. And so, the olive branch that I want to extend to our listeners here is, what if the removing, the deleting, the phasing out, the delegation of whatever it is that right now you might feel like is on your plate and really burdening you way too much, right? Or maybe you do want to add, let's say, for example, coaching or therapy, or, reading 2 books a month, right? You want to add that to your plate. What is the relationship that you currently have with removing things from your plate? That's the question I want to pose. Is it, in fact, a feeling of loss and sadness and hurt, and it's just like despair and all of those negative emotions, or lower arousal emotions? Or is it actually a really opening, freeing, liberating feeling, to where when we remove or phase things out or delete things or close a chapter, is it in fact something that is really positive? It's actually, we have so much more to gain as a result of that. One of the things that I've experienced through my life, and I continuously do, is that reassessing in my mind. Am I assigning a meaning of loss by removing this, be it people, places, ideas, closing of a book, closing of a chapter of a life, like relationships, right? Is it a feeling of loss because of the meaning that I'm assigning to it? Or am I not challenging myself to reestablish, associate a new meaning where there's actually so much for me to gain here, right? So it's kind of flipping the perspective on this. And that can be so empowering. So one of the things that you're working through right now, B, is really that, like, what do I have to gain? What is going to be beneficial on the other side of this? And I know so few of us are actually intentionally looking at that relationship and really analyzing it. And I think that this is a perfect opportunity for all of our listeners looking at, okay, well, if I do want to add these things, what is the systematic thought that can be helping us to reestablish what is to gain here?
Well said.
I think that that's where it starts for sure.
Yeah. You can always add that, like, you're a bit, you're, wow, that made sense. You can, you can always add more later, but you can't always take away the impact of adding too much now. So, did that make sense? Did that
Yeah,
land?
no, it actually reminded me. It did. Yes, it did. And I want to drive it forward in an analogy that hopefully some of our listeners will really start to resonate with. I just had a memory, an episodic memory come back where, like, I remember cooking, and I remember with my mom, I think she was teaching me about like baking or something because I was really into
My mom
baking.
said the same exact thing to me. I know
Yes.
what you're gonna say.
Okay. So it was actually, in this case, it was salt. Like when you're baking or whenever you're doing something, you can always add a little bit, like a pinch more salt, a pinch more salt, a pinch more salt. But because I'm the type of person that would be like, oh, here's the salt canister, and I'll just like dump it in, and I'll be like whatever, right? And this is when I was learning baking and everything, like, and I'm like, like, it's fine. Like, you don't really think of what the impact of that one leap will do for your recipe. But then all of a sudden you have bread that no one wants to eat, or you have cupcakes that are disgusting because they don't actually go through the chemistry, right? You can't take away once you've already done that. And that's the thing. What you were just saying is, once you've done a pinch of salt, you can always add more salt to this recipe, right? But once you dump the whole thing in, like Emilia will do, you can't really take that away. You have to start from scratch. And this is the concept here. You can always add more and you can always gain more. But here's the thing. Once you've added so much, how much more difficult is it going to be for you to take that away?
Thank you for saying what I was stuttering to say for a second. My brain spasmed. All right, everybody. I think that's our cue to remove and end this episode. So,
And we
what
will
is your
end
episode
there.
suggestion?
My episode suggestion is going to be, it's a Motivation Monday to how to let go. And that's episode number 259. Again, because this will help us really work with that relationship that we have with letting things go, with removing, with subtracting, with delegating, with deleting, all that jazz. And I think that that's such a critical skill to get really good at. What about you, B?
We have very similar episode suggestions. Mine is 192, how to be okay letting go of people. If people are the thing that you need to let go of, that episode is for you. All right, everybody, go crush your Monday, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.